Today in Coffee with Dan, I have leading personality in the construction field, Mr. Noel Joseph. He's a consultant engineer and he's also the consultant of NJ Consultants and a director of Heyleys PLC, a director of Singer Industries PLC, and also a director of Regnis, Lanka. Welcome to the studios, Noel, and good morning.
Good morning, Dan.
Today we are going to talk about the construction industry in Sri Lanka. Now we see that many new high-rises coming up in the city and also in other areas of the country. Noel is an expert in this construction industry and he also engaged in various international projects such as hotel projects in the Maldives. So coming to our first question, Noel, what is the current status of the construction industry in Sri Lanka?
Yes, Dan. Now, if you see the construction industry, any country you can measure by looking at the industry on the number of population of tower cranes. Moving tower cranes, because there are some countries you have tower cranes but it's not moving, that means stand still, the projects are cancelled. But in Sri Lanka, few years back we couldn't see a single tower crane in Colombo or any suburb places. But if you travel from Colombo to Kolpiti, you can see so many tower cranes now up. That shows the industry, the demand of the construction industry. That's if you compare a few years back, in Dubai, 40% of the tower crane population was in Dubai. Then 30% was in China. The balance is another 30% of the whole over the world. Now Sri Lanka is catching up and there's a big demand for construction industry.
Now, many are concerned about liberalization of various markets and industries. Construction field also was dominated by the government for some time. We know that the government construction institutions such as the State Engineering Corporation was very much dominating this country's construction industry, but now we see that the market or the industry is liberalized and there are also some mushroom construction companies are coming up. So what is the status of the government construction institutes such as the State Engineering Corporation?
Yeah, if you take State Engineering Corporation, it's a good question because the Dr. Kulasinghe started State Engineering Corporation, and if you see old buildings like People's Bank, those are those days the tallest buildings, all constructed by State Engineering Corporation. Even the first tower crane and the first computer to Sri Lanka is bought by actually State Engineering Corporation. Even the Education Ministry, everybody used that State Engineering Corporation to do their computations. Now it's a very bit of a sad scenario because they couldn't go with the private sector. They couldn't because they are mainly involved in the government projects, and they were struggling to quote for private projects. I think it's a good eye-opener if ministries related to state engineering and other related construction companies under government to wake up and go and quote for private businesses also. And I still remember around 20 years back, to enter State Engineering Corporation, Engineering Division or Architecture Division, you need a first class. Without that, you can't enter to the corporation. So that is the standard they maintain. But now, with the private sector, it's very hard for them to go ahead. That's stated. I think ministry has to look into that.
I also understand that the government has another arm involved in this construction field, which is called the SESEP. So what type of functions that the SESEP undertake?
It's a different area actually. When you see now, if you take the construction industry, we have ICTAD standards, and then different industries, different institutes are controlling the division, like instead of architects, instead of engineers, and the construction management. So they mainly look into the standards and not the boom. I mean, the supporting the construction boom. They look after all the necessary standards for the construction industry.
Now, looking at the workforce, there is a huge demand for workers that are involved in the construction industry, from very skillful to unskillful. What's the status of the construction workforce in Sri Lanka?
That's the biggest issue local construction firms are facing at present. If you take young generation, mainly not the engineering, I mean the engineers and higher level, the lower level, we are facing a big issue with the manpower. I think if you calculate the number of three-wheelers, we have around 1.2 million. So all the young generation from villages has moved into the three-wheeler. Even I know a few guys who has done extremely well in the engineering, I mean the electricians and the masons. Now they move to a three-wheeler and they're running a three-wheeler because it's very easy, because they have their own liberty, start around 8 o'clock or finish around 6 o'clock, or not like construction industry. So what they say, even I met one guy and I asked from him why you have stopped the whole electrician's job. He said it's better wage, better income, and less headaches, and they have a comfort life. But this is a big threat to the local contractors now, without the manpower, and they are not in a position to cater to the industry. So we have to train our own staff and our education pattern also to match this job-oriented programs, like the industry need. That if you take the overseas, all technicians are trained very well. Even they can understand drawings. They know how to do even read the CAD drawings, softwares. But our guys are very basic, and there's no proper training procedures for them.
We see nowadays that many Chinese people are involved in the construction field, and also there is much talk going on in the country about the ETCA with India, and that the Indian workforce might be brought into Sri Lanka. Now, is that an impact, or due to the demand, like you said, that we lack the proper skillful workforce? So what's the rationale behind this?
Yeah, I think Chinese, if you take number of Chinese contractors in Sri Lanka, I can give one good example. Recently, we went for a tender for a high-rise building. 5 Chinese contractors came to quote for that project, and only 3 Sri Lankan companies quoted for the project. And we indicated the construction period of 24 months, and all Sri Lankan companies said 24 is not enough, they need 30 months. But all 5 Chinese contractors came and said 24 is too much, they can finish within 21 months. And they said if you go 24 months, they are losing money keeping the so that is the biggest threat. So compared to India, again another threat to Sri Lanka, because they have a lot of manpower, and biggest advantage for foreign contractors here is the number of working days and hours. Now if you take our workforces, they have weddings, they have funerals, they have all sort of reasons to go on holiday. Even once they take their salary end of the month, after until they finish the salary, they won't come to work. So there's a big threat. Even that is the advantage with Chinese and Indian or any other, not only Chinese, Indian, even I know some contractors using the Bangladeshi workers here. So the way it is going, I think Sri Lankan contractors also have to hire Chinese or Indian or Bangladeshi workers. I heard few contractors are already using, and there are a lot of advantage for them, mainly the number of working hours and working times. So that's a big threat to local contractors.
Now, you mentioned the fact that the foreign construction companies take less hours to complete work, while Sri Lankan companies take, considerably a longer time. But does that compromise the quality of the project? Because we saw some buildings recently in Sri Lanka, like in Vellavatta incident, they came down. So is there something to do with these things?
No, that is a different story. That Vellavatta building, it is approved for few number of floors, and they have gone beyond that. That's a different story. But when it comes to the finishers and the quality, if you take some foreign contractors, they are using Sri Lankan labor, and they are maintaining the same quality. It's depend on the supervision and your engineering staff. That is more important to on the construction, the final product, not only the labor force. It's mainly the supervision and the technology they use.
This morning in Coffee with Dan, I'm talking to Mr. Noel Joseph. I beg your pardon, Mr. Noel Joseph. He's a consultant engineer and he owns the NJ Consultants. He's a director of Heyleys PLC, director of Singer, and director of Regnis, Lanka. And we are talking about the construction industry in Sri Lanka in Coffee with Dan this morning. Now, turning back to our discussion, Noel, since we discussed about these foreign construction companies working in Sri Lanka, what are the impacts of these foreign construction companies that obtain construction work in the country?
There is an impact to local contractors, but same time I think if our local contractors can merge with these foreign contractors, then they can improve, and it's a technology transfer. Now we are not used to do these high-rise buildings because it's new to Sri Lanka, because our contractors have done, I think, hires around tallest is around 30-40 story. Now if you compare number of buildings, all are above 50 stories. The new buildings are coming up 50 plus. So then it's a different technology. So it's a very good opportunity for local contractors to merge with these foreign contractors and share the technology among them and move ahead. Otherwise, there's no other solution for this.
Now, you are involved in projects in Maldives and other countries like Bangladesh, I guess. So this is a local company or local experts from Sri Lanka going and doing foreign projects. How do you see when you compare the Sri Lankan construction industry with those countries? Where do we stand and where do they stand?
Okay, you mentioned about the Maldives and Bangladesh. I'm proud to say that I did actually. My part is a consultancy, so I have completed projects in 14 countries. So in Maldives, one of the best resort in the we can say it's South Asia best resort and the most expensive resort is in Maldives. And total engineering, not other than the civil work, was done by Sri Lankan companies. Even electrical installation, the generator installation, plumbing installation, all done by Sri Lankan companies. So we have the expertise. Even Bangladesh, there are a lot of Sri Lankan companies have moved into Bangladesh and they are working. The advantage they have is the labor. They are using Bangladeshi workers, but they take all our engineering staff, engineers and supervisors from Sri Lanka. But the labor force is from Bangladesh or India, even Maldives. Most of the labor force from Bangladesh is less Sri Lankan. So that is the key for Sri Lankan contractors to go to a different country. Even I know a few contractors are now working in Vietnam, then Cambodia, and Seychelles, Mauritius, and all. So they can move there with our engineering and supervision staff, but the labor they always use all other different countries. So that's the biggest threat what I mentioned earlier Sri Lanka is facing.
if we are to bring the modern technology in construction from other developed countries and share the knowledge with our people in the construction industry, as well as bringing this technology and the equipments and installing in Sri Lanka so as to give a very competitive edge to the Sri Lankan market, how will that work?
There is no other option. We have to go with the technology, because if you see the old style and even the painting or plastering basic stuff, now there are so many machinery equipments to do that. So we have to invest for that. Even our contractors, now I have seen a lot of contractors have invested for the new equipments and new technology. Even the software, I mean, if you take the designers, consultants, those days we do only the calculator and we do all the calculation. Now there are softwares. You can reduce the number of engineers by using those. So coming forward, the future is the technology, and we have to go and invest for the technology. And always I suggest all our contractors and the construction industry people to visit different exhibitions and construction exhibition in all over the world. Then you can see all what is available in the market, so which is lacking, or we can organize, some groups can organize and visit those exhibitions and explore the technology.
Now, we understand that when a certain project starts and do the preliminary work, and by the time that the construction is over, there is a gap of few years, 1, 2, 3 it could be. But during that time, we also know that the exchange rate changes, the dollar fluctuates. Now, are there any price advantages or disadvantages to foreign construction companies who come and obtain construction work in Sri Lanka?
Dollar fluctuation won't work for bigger projects, because most of the bigger projects go on BOI status, and then they price on dollar in dollar terms. And they, even if local contractors, they when they are quoting, because all these projects, construction high-rise buildings take 2 to 3 years to finish, complete. So they always benchmark our rate and then go. But the other hand, foreign contractors have a plus point in dollar. Mainly, they if the Chinese or Indian contractors are buying stuff from their own countries, they have advantages which local companies don't have.
This morning in Coffee with Dan, I have Mr. Noel Joseph. He's the engineering consultant for NJ Consultants and also director of Heyleys PLC, director of Singer and also director of Regnis Lanka of the NJ Consultants, and he's a director of Heyleys PLC, director of Singer, director of Regnis Lanka. And we are talking about the construction industry in Sri Lanka. Turning back to our discussion, Noel, are there any advantages for Sri Lankan construction companies to have joint ventures with foreign construction companies?
Yeah, which I mentioned earlier, that is the best solution to exchange the technology and share the technology and technology transfer, because the investment for the equipments and technology is not easy. So the companies who has already invested, if they come to Sri Lanka, if they can merge with these companies to quote for projects, some projects are say investment is very big, so it's not easy for local guys to go and invest on the technology with the equipments and all that. So it's a fantastic opportunity for our contractors to go with the foreign and joint venture with the foreign contractors.
Now, we were discussing about the workforce. Do we have proper training procedures to Sri Lankan construction workforce?
That's the biggest lacking part in Sri Lanka. Our workers, if you say now, even if you start constructing your own house, it's very difficult to find a good mason, good carpenter, and trained staff. And there is few institutions, but the problem is all the people who train from these institutions, they go to Dubai and do all Middle East countries or other even the Korea, all the countries. And finally, we are with the workforce which don't have the experience. Another side is the engineering. I mean, the higher end workforce, engineers and architects and all that. We had the brain drain period, where the war period, or most of our professionals migrated to Australia, New Zealand, Canada. So now we are facing the issue. If you see this number of senior engineers, so many vacancies, but we don't have people. So it's a high time to train our existing workforce, and at the same time, and set them in a proper salary scale. That's why they are, I mean, moving to different, construction industry is not easy industry, because the working hours are different, and you have to work outside the civil contractors. They have to work outside the buildings, and not like the other MEP contractors. So it's tough job. So most of our guys are a bit lazy, and mainly that's why they are moving to trishows and other industries. And same thing is happening for even the hotels industry. Not only construction industry. We need a proper training procedures for this, all the tradesmen.
So talking about working in construction sites, we know that safety is first. Do we have safety standards on construction sites to follow?
We have set some safety standards, but not like other. Now, if you take Singapore and Dubai, they have authority. They go to construction site and check all the safety standards, whether they follow, even including the visas for the foreign contractors. I know some countries, they even immigration guys, they visit the sites and check whether they have proper visas. Some people, they come on holiday visa and they work. They work in construction sites. We have to have some proper safety standard. But if you take all the high-rise building, every building we have a safety engineer, safety manager to look after the safety aspects of the construction workers. And at the same time, government authorities have to follow and inspect the sites and see whether they are following those standards. That is one of the main issue.
Now, apart from the ordinary construction tasks, such as building houses and personal type of buildings, we know that condominiums, hotel projects and multipurpose buildings that are coming up. Now, if I take the condominiums, first of all, we see that there is a growing market in Sri Lanka, and I don't understand whether really we do have a demand for the condominiums. What is the truth about this?
Okay, this is a big talk. Even I saw newspaper, but that is not related to my area, because I'm doing all the construction. But if you take number of condominiums, I think around 8,000 condominiums are coming up in Sri Lanka. But what is the population in Colombo? And I will give a good example. Now, we had a dengue issue, and see number of patients who's living in condominiums, I think are less than 1% on dengue. So that's now. And why people are moving to condominium? One is safety. One is the easy to travel. Moving to Colombo. So I don't see that there is a issue with the numbers. We need more. Even when Singapore started this condominium system, earlier they had like Sri Lanka. I think now 75 to 80% living in condominiums. And I think that is because buying a land in Colombo is not easy. And if you pay for the land and there's no money to build a house, so it's a trend to go for the condominium. And even the condominium pricing also last 3 to 4 years have jacked up. It's really there's a big difference. 4 years back, same property, and now it's around 50% more than that means there's a big demand. for that.
When we talk about hotels, we see that a lot of hotels are coming around Colombo and also in the outskirts of Colombo and in the tourist sites. And when I was having discussions in Coffee with Dan about the tourism industry, almost all of the speakers were very optimistic that the tourism industry will boom in the coming months and years. So how do you see the importance of having good hotels in Sri Lanka?
Yes, we need good hotels. At the same time, we have to see the star rating. Whether we need 5-star rating hotels or 4-star or 3-star rating. We can't compare. Most of the people say, okay, Maldives is booming because of Sri Lanka war period. Maldives boomed. Maldives got, that major plus point onto the hotel. But I won't agree to that, because the Maldives hotels and Sri Lanka hotels, the rates, Maldives minimum rates is starting from $500. And there are some resorts go up to $6,000. In Sri Lanka, we are struggling with $150. So it's a different market, but still we have a market for a hotel. But I can't touch in that area because I am not expert and I have not studied the rates but I can see there's a demand. But our tourism industry is seasonal, not like other countries now. Go to Dubai, Singapore, or Thailand, Malaysia, our closest country, Maldives. Now Maldives is throughout the year is 80%, all the resorts. But in Sri Lanka, December, yes. But there are even from September and all those months, we have a problem to operate. They are facing a lot of issues.
Now there is also a trend towards multi-purpose buildings and sites. Especially we saw the Kandy city center coming up, and now a new building in Colombo coming up as Colombo city center. So how do you face these developing trends in the construction industry?
So you name few projects, and our Colombo city center is a good example, because that is the first project in Sri Lanka. One tower combine all the services. That means the shopping mall, hotel, and apartment. So it's a good opportunity for example, the guy who's living in the apartment, you have a hotel, you have the shopping mall in all around that area. So that is the trend in other countries, but still we are new to that in the area. I know that few buildings are designed with the multi-purpose buildings. So near future you can see more buildings in Colombo with multi-purpose, like hotel, apartment together, or office with the shopping mall together. So if you see our malls, how many branded malls, branded stuff available in Sri Lanka. Go to Vietnam, no need to go to other developed countries. Go to Vietnam and Cambodia. They have all the malls are with branded shops. But in Sri Lanka, very rare. Still we don't have a mall with the branded stuff. So only the people who travel overseas can purchase all the goods and the branded stuff. And the locals are living with, the existing malls. So it's needy, of course.
So when it comes to the constructions of such multi-purpose sites, the designers, engineers and consultants may be having a tough time to design these types of multiple constructions.
Actually, when it comes to designs, always our architects or our engineers, they have the experience, and if they don't have, they merge with the foreign consultants. Even that, if you take all the high-rise buildings in Colombo coming up, most of the buildings are Sri Lankans are joint venture with foreign consultants, and they share, because we are new to that industry. I think now after another 1 or 2 years, our engineers and architects can handle that. There's no problem. We have a capable people to do that. That's not a problem.
This morning in Coffee with Dan, I had Mr. Noel Joseph. He is the consultant engineer of Enjoy Consultants and a director of Heyleys PLC, Singer, Lanka, and also Regnis Industries. So thank you very much, Noel, for being here in Coffee with Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much.
And I will be back tomorrow with another interesting topic in Coffee with Dad.